Hi, this is Josh with pmstudent.com. Today I just wanted to point out something that I just got done talking to Cornelius Fitchner about when we recorded Not the Status Report podcast for this week. But it's essentially I want to point you over to the U.S. Government Accountability Office's Cost Estimating and Assessment Guide, Best Practices for Developing and Managing Capital Program Costs. And I got introduced to this site when I was essentially looking for a good resource on one of the aerospace projects that I was working on for coming up with some criteria, some rationale, some processes for ensuring that we had credible estimates and that we were going through the proper processes to really identify and make sure that we're doing the right things. So I found this guide. There's also a NASA cost estimating handbook, I believe is what the title of it is, that you can look for as well. That's really good. But today I want to talk about the GAO document. So it's a PDF document, pretty big, 440 pages, and there's a lot of useful information in here. Now, it is really useful if you're working on large projects, especially large government projects. This is really written from the perspective of kind of being like a guidebook for a federal auditor, really. But there's a lot of things that can be used on smaller projects and non-government projects that you'll find in here. So essentially, as you go through the chapters, if you see chapters that are specifically talking about structures within federal agencies, like the cost assessment team, let's see, some of these particular chapters, you may take a look at them, glance at them. If they're not relevant to you, then you can skip over them essentially. But one example that I used this for was when coming up with a method of using 3-point estimates in Monte Carlo to really kind of risk adjust or adjust for the uncertainty and the risk in our estimates. And so this is one of the things that I referenced, and then in the documentation that I produced for the government, I was able to reference this chapter, this page within the GAO Best Practices Guide as what I used for guidance on this. So just one of the examples there. Another example would be like sensitivity analysis. So if you haven't done sensitivity analysis before, they have steps in performing a sensitivity analysis and show you an example of what that is. Really, it's just taking major cost drivers and estimating it, if A happens or if B happens, what is the impact on your project going to be in terms of cost for those major cost drivers, and how essentially doing a sensitivity analysis on that. So I just wanted to point that out, that I did talk about this on Not the Status Report this week, but I wanted to show you a little bit here, and really just encourage you to take a look at it. I mean, Chapter 8 is all about the work breakdown structure and using a product-oriented breakdown structure. A lot of this is really common sense project management. What's in a baseline? How do you manage a baseline? When you get down to some of the lower chapters here, 18, 19, and 20, they've got planning the program costs, managing the program costs through execution. So it talks about updates to your baseline in Chapter 20 as you're going through. So lots of really great information here. And like I said, you can take this, read it, and understand that it's in the context of mostly large government projects, but then see if you can scale it down and adapt it to your particular environment. There are a lot of good practices when you take a look at EVM, for example, and you take a look at, I believe they're talking about the 32 guidelines right here. If you take a look at those EVM guidelines, maybe you're not going to do all of them depending on your project, but if you look at it, it's really good, solid project management practices when you get down to it. Whether you're doing waterfall or agile or anything else, it can be helpful for you. So I just wanted to share that with you today.
Music by Kevin MacLeod.